Welcome to Bearing It All with Rose and Crystal,
where the conversations get real, emotions run raw, and nothing is filtered.
Buckle up because we're bearing it all, deep diving into everything from motherhood to mental health and everything in between. We want to get to know you, each other, and our bodies, and things are going to get spicy.
Real spicy. Are you ready for it?
Let's do it. Welcome to another episode of Bearing It All with Crystal and Rose. We have a special guest on today. We have Solonge, who is a self-confessed shopaholic, rap lover and spiritual socialite. She's a corporate communication specialist by day and mama of 5 by night. In 2018, her world was turned upside down when she birthed her stillborn twins, Leo and Cruz. As a result of her grief, many of Solonge's suppressed childhood traumas came to the surface. She was faced with more than most will have to face in a lifetime. Known as the Resilience Queen by her inner circle, this is her remarkable story of healing, finding her true self, and her inspiring plans for the future. Welcome to the pod.
Solonge, we are so happy to have you on today.
Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. We've been dying to get you on.
Thank you.
But we want to kind of start at the beginning. So I guess we're going to leave it to you to just head us down that path.
So I guess I'll start at childhood. For me, I was born, so my parents migrated to Australia in 1985. So mum was heavily pregnant with me. And by February of 1986, I was born. Sadly, when I was 9 months old, my dad left mum, so she had 3 kids under the age of 8 and didn't speak a word of English, so she had quite the battle ahead of her. So for the most part of my life, we had a really, really close bond. I've got 2 older brothers and I and my mum, and sort of my oldest brother became my father figure, so to speak, and he was incredible. Like, he'd pick me up from school and I remember this one time he had a cardboard box and he popped a brick in it. So I thought it was something really heavy because I was recruited into a netball team, and he put a brick in a box and I was like, oh my God, what is it? What is it? And I opened it and it was just a teddy bear. So he used to do things like that. He was really sweet. He was really successful. And unfortunately, it wasn't until his late 20s when he started to dabble in drugs, basically. And it just progressively got worse from there. I think sort of one of the pivotal moments in my life was I knew that he was using, and it was evident in his behaviours and how he changed as a person. But what happened was one day I'd come home and he goes, oh, I got you something today. And I saw a glimpse of that old brother, and he handed me a sunglass case, and it was a Versace sunglass case. And I was like, oh, really? These are for me? And he was like, yeah, I got them for you today. And as I opened the case, nestled between the sunglasses was a needle. And in that moment, my world I remember just pouring out with tears, and he threw himself back in the couch and was screaming, no, because he'd realised he'd obviously forgotten it there.
Yeah.
And I just ran out the house. I just remember running and running and running. I didn't know where I was running, but I just, my world just came crumbling down, this figure.
Can I ask, what was the age difference between you?
So there's 8 years difference between us, and I think – I'm trying to remember around about how old I was at the time. I must have been maybe around 18 or 19, I think, at the time when I knew that he was using. Yep. At the time, I just thought it was meth, but finding the needle was just soul shattering. And he was like, I probably didn't paint a big enough picture. He was the boy. So my mum was a real devout Catholic, and he was in church groups growing up. He'd go on like Catholic weekends and all this kind of stuff, and out of like the 3 of us siblings, he was probably the one most involved in the church. And so it was so out of character. He would be the last person on earth any of friends would ever think would use drugs. So that was the first sort of shock, and then to find the needle just like absolutely ripped my life apart.
Yeah, it was like confirming you knew it was happening, but it wasn't something you wanted to admit almost to yourself. It was like finding it was very real.
Yeah, it was really difficult. And then it kind of just spiraled from there. We found out he had a property at the time, and he was like one of the top salesman at BMW. So there was, it was just everything came crumbling down, and we slowly found out that he had relapsed on his mortgage repayments. And at the time, so by this time I was 21, I think, and I was looking at a home and land package, and my mum came to me. She was like, you have to save your brother's house. Like, this is his last straw. You have to save him. He'll lose himself, this and that. And so instead of buying myself a property at the time, I ended up saving my brother's house. And what happened the year after was just some of the most horrific stuff that I could have gone through. I had people ringing me with his drug debts, bikies and all sorts of things, saying your brother owes me this, like you need to pay. I had people confront me about, oh, well, you know, we can work it off together if you want. Like really, like a lot of stuff. He became really aggressive towards me. I remember my work being on high alert because he owed some people money, and it's quite, should have really given a bit of a trigger warning. But yeah, I remember one guy ringing me and saying that he was going to set my car on fire. And it was so bizarre though. I was so fearless at that time. I was so fearless. I was like, yep, sure, mate. This is my work address. Come, I'll stand at the front. I was just really fearless. I just thought, you know what, if this is my time, this is my time. Like I really don't know who that person was, but it got me through that time. So I paid a lot of his drug debts and things like that. And unfortunately, like that beautiful, like obviously what killed me the most was not just the financial. They ended up living, my mum and my brothers lived in that home for a year, and I lived with my then boyfriend, now husband. So I was paying a mortgage for a house I didn't even live in. And it just became too much. I was like, what is going on here? I don't even live in this house. So I ended up selling the house, and the whole family were just really upset at me. But I was like, I need to get out of this situation. And I remember giving my brother a check for $90,000, and I took $19,000, even though I had paid the mortgage for a year. I just didn't want anyone to think that I'd made money off his back or his property. And so I walked away, not even covering the repayments that I had paid for that year. And I lost my first homeowner's grant on that home. And I remember the house settling on Christmas Eve, and by January he had rang me asking for money.
So he blew the 90K already?
He'd blew it, whether it had been debts, whether it had been drugs. And
that's what I was going to ask you. Like when you said you gave him the $90,000 check, I've got family members that are severe drug addicts living on the street, and I was thinking straight away when you said that, what's going to happen to that money?
I think I didn't want to give it to him, but at the time I was being guided by my dad and my uncle, and everyone was so invested in what was going on. I wanted to do what everyone else thought was right. In my heart, I was like, this is the wrong thing to do. I wanted to put the money in a long-term fixed account, and when he got himself clean, he had a bit of a kitty to sort of get his life back on track. But no, they said, no, it's his money, give him his money. So I gave him his money, and it was just gone.
It was gone.
Wow.
Yeah. That was a start, and we still have a very broken relationship. I've tried, to repair that.
Has he gotten clean since?
No.
Okay.
He did go to Shalom House, and he did get clean for a year. So Shalom House is a rehab centre for those who aren't aware, and they actually have counsellors and things there, and they actually did some mediation with him and I to repair that relationship. And I was really reluctant to begin with because there was so much damage done. Obviously, as I said, the threats, the physical violence, there was so much that I enjoyed with him. But I was willing to put it past because I knew that wasn't my brother. And it's not an excuse, but I loved the human under all that pain. He had some sort of pain, and he just wasn't processing it and chose to go down the substance abuse sort of line. So he did go to Shalom House, but he ended up, his partner at the time, he ended up basically going back on drugs, and he's he's now back in prison.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So you don't really have much contact with him then?
No. So he hasn't really met my 2 younger children. And, I mean, if I see him, we're like hi. And it's really difficult because when I see him, I see that soul is still in there, but he's just really lost and really he needs help. But I've tried for too long, and at some point I just had to say I need to stop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of family members, I've seen this with friends that have, you know, family members that are also addicts or that have struggled with abuse through substance. So they take it upon themselves to try fix it.
Yeah.
And it becomes so taxing on them personally. And there's got to be a time when you're like, I need to step out of this, not because I don't love you, but because it's harming me too and my family. So
yeah,
it's a
100%.
big thing for you to have done.
And I think I was very good poker face. So I was always the bubbly person in the workplace. In high school, I was the same. It wasn't until a teacher actually confiscated a book and I was writing in class, and I used to write poetry. And she was like, called me aside at the end of class and was like, what's all this about? It's quite dark.
Yeah.
I said, oh, nothing. But that was my way of expressing itself, and it still is. It's through my words. So it was, I just wanted to see everybody else happy. But that's, I guess, a big part of my journey, which we'll come to, is that I was so focused on making sure everyone else was okay. I was really neglecting the main person.
Like, let's go back to that. So putting on the facade, which I think we're all so good at. And it is very hard to take down that wall when people think that that's who you are. I mean, I can definitely relate. You were saying you're always the bubbly, always the fun, always, you know, people looking to you for help and guidance, yet underneath the surface there was so much going on for you. When did you let that down?
I feel like it was escapism. So like I had this pain going on at home, and it was a place where I could just be me. I didn't have to worry about that stuff. Like I was at school and I was happy, and like no one really needed to know. Like my mum struggled financially, obviously a mum of 3 on a single income. Like I never thought, I've always been quite a genuine person. I don't think I've ever really been fake, but it was just, I loved seeing other people happy, and maybe that came from a place of just not having that at home. So it was my place to go out into the world and just show up the way I want. Maybe I felt like I couldn't really express myself
You were safe at school.
Yeah, I was safe.
Yeah.
I was safe to express myself and be myself and that kind of thing. And that was my happy place. Yeah.
So then moving forward after everything that happened with your brother, kind of take us down that route of like different struggles that you've had to go through.
Yeah, so I think after my brothers, one of the biggest things was my mum worked shift work. She worked 2 jobs, obviously, to put food on the table and things for us. So she worked at a hospital, so she'd work late nights and things like that. And I found that I was falling in a habit of comfort eating. And I wasn't aware at the time, but I would just comfort eat and just eat myself, and it was a way of almost metaphorically like pushing those emotions down, just like, and so my weight sort of spiraled and I put on a lot of weight. I remember at my wedding, like I do not have a single wedding photo hung up at our house because I was the biggest I've ever been. And I was at the time, at that age, you don't really know. Obviously I've done a lot of healing and everything now, and I recognize what that was, but I just was, again, in another way, putting myself last, just eating food for comfort rather than feeling my feelings and actually processing.
We're guilty.
I was like, what was that?
I'll tell you what, the amount of Tim Tam packets I ate during my time.
Oh my God. Yeah,
I turned into a Tim Tam.
I was so bad, and this is the first, I'm actually so embarrassed to say it out loud. I remember like I would drive through a McDonald's and get like a cheeseburger, and then I would drive to another suburb and get like another one because I was like too embarrassed to order two.
You should have just ordered 2 meals like it was for 2 people.
It was so bad. I just used to comfort eat a lot, and mum not being around. And I think at that time as well, my mum started to lose her way, obviously your son being addicted to drugs, my mum changed. And that was really hard for me because growing up I was so close to my mum, so close. But then she started to get her own mental health battles, which till this day she still struggles with, and our relationship is really tested and it's different. It's really different than when we were kids. Like she was, you know, as kids we'd wake up and even though we were so poor, like as a child Salvation Army used to come over and bring a basket and we got to pick a present out of it. That was my childhood. You know, lentils like for dinner 3 times a week. I'm talking that kind of, but no one knew. And I guess I got a lot of that from my mum. So my mum would always have us in the best clothes, always have us looking a certain way. So she was so worried about what people thought. We would show up in a certain way, but at the same time she was really struggling. Yeah. And just my relationship with her changed, and that was another difficult part of the journey because my brother was like her beacon of light, and to see him come crashing down. And I can't imagine, I'm a parent now, like I can't imagine the pain that would cause. So she's really different now as well.
I think though, like her life traumas, like, you know, being pregnant, coming to another country, you know, the man of your life leaving you and you having to bring up all your kids and then your son turning to drugs, like it's a lot for her too. So
it's a lot. And she had a lot of trauma from Lebanon. So my parents obviously grew up during the time of the war over there. So my mum saw a lot. My mum also lost her brother. She witnessed she didn't witness, but she walked in straight after her brother was shot, and she had the same relationship that I had with my oldest brother. Yeah. So she carried it. She was, I think she was 8 years old, and I was the first person she ever told, and I was about 17 and she told me what happened that night. And it's so she's carried a lot of that through her life. So she's got a lot of pain, and I guess the healing journey that I've been on, I resented her a lot as a teenager. She wouldn't let me go to leavers. She wouldn't let me do this. She wouldn't let me do that. But I think she had such a massive fear of losing control because of what had happened with my brother. So she really tried to control me, controlled how I dressed, and body issues. Like, I have to admit, my mum was blessed genetically. She was, you know, she used to say to me, I was 8 months pregnant with your brother and I was 46 kilos. Yeah. And I was like, wow. And so I was probably
comparing a bit there.
Well, I think I was like a size maybe 12 in high school, which looking back in hindsight is so normal, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But my mum, I remember her storming me out of a shopping centre and being like, until you're a size 10, I'm not taking you shopping, or a size 10 or an 8, I'm not taking you. And it was live at Karen Up. And remember how like that was like, and I was like, I just bawled my eyes out. So I was already, those body issues were already instilled from such a young age, because she constantly used to compare me to her and her figure. And obviously I took after more my dad's side and more curvy and more hourglass. So there was a lot of that, but I realise now that it was just projection of her own pain. And in some way, like, I love my mum to bits, even through everything. In some way I feel like my light irritated her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because no matter what I had faced, I was still so resilient and bright, and I was positive, and I still wanted, but she was really stuck in misery. And I think now, reflecting back, maybe my light really irritated her and she was trying to dull me down.
That can definitely happen. Yeah. Absolutely. You see it all the time, but I don't think she would have done it consciously.
No,
yeah.
I agree.
And I think there's that ethnic in them, the pride, when you say the way, you know, yous would be dressed a certain way because they were worried about how people think. And I can definitely relate to that, having grown up in an Italian family. It was always, Roseanne, what would people think if you do that? And I was always more, I don't care. What if, let them talk? Yeah. So that was very confronting even for my own family. So I definitely relate to that myself. But even with back then with your mum, they just didn't deal with things.
No.
They didn't know how. No one helped them through it. They were just told to shut up and put on the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, don't tell people your problems.
And I appreciate as well the difficulty. Like, you're moving to another country. You have to learn the culture. And then I feel like, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening, I feel for us when we've been raised by people who are from overseas, like immigrants, and you're growing up in a totally different culture, but your parents are trying to raise you as in you're still in Lebanon, if that makes sense. So that I feel for my brothers, I have empathy for them because they are a little bit lost. It's like, you want to fit in with the Australian culture and your friends and everything, but then you have these other values so there's a real imbalance, I guess, of how you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to show up. Yeah.
So then obviously you had your daughter.
Yes.
Well, first of all, you got married.
Yeah.
Yes. Then you had your daughter. She was a little light of your life.
Yeah, she was.
So then take us down a bit of like motherhood and your journey there.
So Alea came along and she was, just the most beautiful baby. We were very lucky that she was just the most amazing welcome to motherhood. She was a really good sleeper. Like, I hate saying it because she was like a unicorn baby. I remember messaging a friend, I was like, oh my God, she's sleeping through the night at 6 weeks old. Like, she was and she's still the most beautiful little soul.
I'll never forget seeing one of the posts that you put on, it must have been, I don't know if it was Facebook or Instagram, but her big eyes and this hair. And I was just like, oh my God, she's such a beautiful baby.
She had such long hair. I remember actually, it's funny you say that, at the hospital, they were like, do you mind if we take her for a walk? And she had this mop of hair and they were like parading her around the hospital.
It looked like a wig man.
It looked like a Lego. You know what it looked like, Rosie? It looked like a Lego. You know the Lego?
Yeah, the Lego.
Click on. That's what she looked like. She had jet black hair and she if you see her now, she's obviously more that blondish kind of, and light brown. And they were like parading her around the hospital and feel like, this is so funny. So Alea came along and then after that we obviously decided we wanted another. And I guess that's where life got hard again. And I just kind of thought, haven't I dealt with enough? Really? So prior to Alea, I had a miscarriage. I remember driving to work. I was on Reed Highway and I just got this massive cramp and it was an early miscarriage. I was probably around 6 weeks. Then we had Alea, which was a normal pregnancy. She pretty much went to full term. And then after that, things started happening, just lots happening. After Alea, I remember it being her first birthday and I had some spotting, bleeding, and I was like, well, this is really weird. And I remember having, of course, always the way I was wearing a baby pink play suit. And I was like, oh my God. And I was in so much pain and I was really sweating and I was like, is it really hot at this birthday? I didn't want to bother Phil. Sounds terrible. So I waited till the Monday. I kept taking, it might have been even longer. No, that was my second. I kept taking painkillers, just Nurofen, thinking, I'm just getting cramps. I didn't know I was pregnant. And so I was just taking Nurofen. Then one day I drove myself to King Edward. I didn't want to bother Phil at work. I was like, I'm just going to go to King Edward and check. A checkup. Yeah, just like a gynecologist checkup or whatever. And they said, your tube has ruptured. You've had an ectopic pregnancy. You need to go straight into surgery. I was like, what? So I had to ring Phil and it was like 4:00 in the afternoon. And I said, I need to go into surgery. And I was like, why didn't you ring me? Why didn't you call me? I was like, I didn't want to bother you in case it was like a false alarm. I didn't want to, interrupt your work. So I ended up having surgery at like 7:30 p.m. that night and they removed my left tube. So it was about a 10 weeks pregnant, ectopic. And so that was my first sort of second lot of loss.
Yeah.
And then from there, we obviously, I think when you lose, and a lot of people can relate, there's a part of your heart that has so much love to give and it's gone nowhere. So we really wanted to try for another child. So we were trying, and it's funny, like not a lot of people know this story, but Phil and I both really prayed for twins. And so his uncles are twins and my auntie and uncle are twins. So we were like, oh, how good would it be if we got twins? How good would it be if we got twins? Anyway, I fell pregnant and I remember driving to the obstetrician's office for our first scan and I said, I bet you it's twins, He's like, don't say that. And he was talking about buying a car. And I said, don't buy a car yet because we might need a bigger one. He's like, don't say that. He's like, I can't remember what car he was looking at. And I was like, don't buy it yet because we might need a 7-seater. Anyway, we got to the scan and she's scanning away and she's like, and I said to her, oh, I've got a feeling it's twins. She's like, everybody says that. It's kind of like just, you know. And then she's scanning and she's like, oh, there's one. She's like, I just saw her freeze and she was like, oh, my God. And she was like, there's 2. And Phil just looked at me and I just burst out crying. And I thought he'd be like, oh, my God. But he was like so happy. I've never seen him so happy in my life. So, then we found out we were pregnant with the twins and, that was really, really exciting.
And then obviously you had a bit of tragedy with the twin boys.
Yeah, so at the time I was documenting, as you know, Crystal. Crystal did our gender reveal actually and
my dad was there too.
He was. I remember. He was such a beautiful man. And it just kills me because I live streamed my gender reveal.
I remember seeing the gender reveal myself.
Yeah.
So I set up the party and then I literally went in my car and I was like waiting for this thing. And I was like, I can't do anything today until I see what's happening.
Yeah. So we did the gender reveal and Crystal had Carnival Creations at the time. She did the beautiful grazing table, etc. And we had all our just really intimate, close friends and things. And we found out we were having 2 boys, obviously because I was going to have 3 under almost 2. I think Alea was going to be like 2 and like 1 month or 2 and 2. So it was going to be hectic. So I remember as well at the time we had just bought a new car, so we had to go change my car because we needed a bigger basically because all 3 kids would be in car seats. We had to go to baby shops. I don't know if you remember my stories at the time, but I was going to baby shops and putting in 3
because they don't all fit across.
They don't. It was only like the Kluger or the Mazda CX-9 and even I think the Prado, the new Prado was narrower. So we just thought we'll get a Prado and then they were narrower so we couldn't get that. So it was like the choice of 2 cars. So anyway, we changed our car. We, started changing life, preparing. We wanted to know what we were having, obviously, because it was going to be busy. So we found out it was the twin boys. And then I think it was only like a couple of weeks later, I went out for, it gets me choked up every time. We went out for my birthday dinner and we went to Brits in Mount Hawthorn with my cousin and his fiancée at the time. We were having dinner and I remember complaining about how uncomfortable the chairs were. I was like, these chairs are so uncomfortable. Is anyone else uncomfortable? And they were like, no. And I was like, oh, these are so uncomfortable. I was whinging about these chairs. Then we we had dinner and then we were like, should we go to a dessert place? So we went to Measure in Mount Lawley for dessert. And I was still feeling really uncomfortable. So I went to the bathroom just thinking I needed to go to the bathroom and I had some blood there. And I was like, and then just my heart just sank and I came back out and I said, Phil, I'm bleeding. He's like, it's okay, babe, it's okay. And I remember him grabbing my hand and he says, okay, obviously because I had the ectopic. He just thought I was getting into like anxious about that. And he's like, it's okay, it's probably just a little bit of bleeding. Then we went home after and I was really uncomfortable. I still was really uncomfortable. I remember laying down on the bed and then I just felt these shooting pains in my lower back. And I was like, whoa, this is not right.
How many weeks were you at this point?
I was 23 weeks and 4 days. So I lay in bed and I got those shooting pains and I stood up and I thought, one of them, obviously I never had a twin pregnancy. So I just thought maybe one of them was sitting on a nerve. So I'm rocking in my room. I'm just like, move. And it didn't happen. It feels like maybe you should just call the hospital just to be safe. So I rang the hospital and they said, look, it's probably all fine, but just pack a bag and just come in. I was like, yep, no worries. And then, so I should mention, just going back a little bit, in 2017, and Phil is not this he is now, but at the time he was not this person. Phil and I went to Sydney and we went to Tony Robbins. We went to like a 4-day conference. And I feel like that is so important in my story because the mindset that I had to get through what was coming is so pivotal in the story. So we got to the hospital, they've done a scan and they were like, you're already dilating. And I was like,
you're in
okay.
labour.
Yeah, I was like, okay. at this point, I still thought, okay, I'm just going to have preemie babies because there's always a risk with twins, obviously, that they're going to come early. So I just thought, okay, this is going to be hard. I've got a 2-year-old at home, but I'm going to be in and out of hospital every day, like visiting the twins. This is what was going through my head. And so they put me on bed and the nurses were like, you're going to deliver within 24 hours. And at that point, I just said no. And this is what I learned from Tony Robbins. He said, like, when people get a diagnosis of cancer or terminal cancer, is if you accept it into your subconscious, more than likely, and research shows that people will pass away around that time. So I refused it, and they just thought I was nuts. I was like, no, I'm sorry, my sons are not going to be born. And they were just looking at me like I was batshit crazy. Yeah. And Phil was like, nah, babe, we've got this. Nah, they're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. And I went well past the 24 hours. So they said, okay, great. So we couldn't have any visitors at the time. I could have only like really close family. So my the middle brother, Sam, was there the whole time. My cousin was there. Phil's mum. Like there was a few just really close people that were there. Phil's brother. And then on, I think it was day 5, they said, we're going to move you up to a ward. We can't believe it. Like, you've made this far, we're moving you up to a ward. It could mean you're in bed rest for like 6 weeks, however long for the rest of your pregnancy. I was like, that's fine. We'll do what we got to do. We'll manage. So they're packing all my stuff to move me up. I've texted my friends saying you can visit. They said you can tell your friends they can visit this afternoon. And then within an hour, like, everything changed.
Okay.
Basically my temperature started going up and I started vomiting and feeling really sick. And because my cervix had been open, I got an infection. And they pulled my husband aside and said, we need to get these babies out. Like, it's basically the babies or your wife. Like, she can get very sick very quickly. I didn't know that at the time. They obviously pulled him aside and,
No, that's totally fine.
So, that was it. And then I just had to I remember the doctor and he was like, Patch Adams, like, have you ever watched that?
Yeah.
And he said, what can I do for you? Because I knew at that point that there was another thing that I missed is, so no one really knows this unless you've been through it, but they don't resuscitate babies if they're under 24 weeks.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So it's actually a law. So you have to apply to, we could have applied to the High Court or I'm not sure exactly, the medical board or whatever, but we didn't have time. So
I absolutely did not know that. I honestly thought, and this is probably, having not had, I don't even know how to say it now because I'm like, oh my God, it's so emotional. But that I thought there was a chance they could make it at like nearly 24 weeks.
Well, Phil's youngest brother, I think, was born at 26, I think, if I'm correct. And at the time as well, like, I wanted to delete my social media, get off. Like, I couldn't believe this was happening to me. And Phil was like, you need to write about this. I was like, no way. Like, I just want to disappear. And I wrote about it and I received thousands of messages. My son was born at 24 weeks. You've got this, it's fine. He's now 30 years old. He's this. So people gave me so much hope and I was hanging on to that. Like, I mean.
Because even a friend of mine had her baby at King Eddie and he was 22 weeks, I think. I mean, now he's still got some development things, but that's why when I remember seeing what you were going through, I was thinking surely they would be okay.
And I didn't know they can't resusc them.
No.
It's just
So
wild
at the
to me. They're
time,
people.
they said, so we were 3 days short. 3 days.
Of them being able to be.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So and the other thing was obviously you run the risk of, and the other thing was is because I had an infection, there's no research. There's obviously a lot more research now, but there's no research to say that hasn't gone to the kids. So they can't give you antibiotics or anything like that, which they have proven that helps the babies. So, I had to deliver the babies and, it was just, I remember the doctor coming up to me and he's like, what can I do for you? And what do you say? Like, what do you say in that situation?
Did you know at that point that they were going to come out and they wouldn't make it, or you didn't know?
Yeah, well, they told me. They said
told
that we can't resuscitate them.
I'm in shock.
And they can't breathe. They can't breathe on their own at that gestation. So their lungs are not fully formed. enough to breathe on their own. So they would pass away as soon as they.
It makes no sense to me that, especially 4 days, like, come on.
So that's what they're saying. They're like, you're in the grey, it's called the grey area. So we can apply, but we don't have time because I was sick.
Fuck the application. What the hell?
I don't understand.
Yeah. But then you run the risk of, the biggest thing as well was they were like, they could have severe cerebral palsy. They could have brain damage. They could like all this stuff. And it's
so much for you to take in this one moment of.
It's so much. And also like I appreciate, maybe I would like, even just speaking about it now, maybe I've never expressed how much I appreciate Phil, because at the time my head is just like, how I've got to push these babies out and then let go, and then also make this decision that could affect my daughter as well. So if I had 2 severely disabled twins, that would impact a layer as well. And to be fair, they didn't really ask me a lot of questions. They asked Phil because they said it was me or the twins really. And he said, well, we've got another child. Like that's it's a no-brainer. Like I have to make sure my wife is okay first. And at one point, sorry, I should say, they thought that they could save Cruz. So Cruz was right up the top of my stomach. He was still, he was up high while Leo was already protruding, like he was already coming out. And so at one point they thought maybe they could keep Cruz in there. But that didn't happen. Sorry, this is before I got the infection, a bit all over the place. But before I got the infection, they thought that perhaps they could save the second twin, which was Cruz, because he was sitting a little high. They might be able to stitch me up and keep him in there. But once I got the infection, it was too late for any of that. So, I remember the doctor being like, Patch Adams, he was the most beautiful man, and he was like, what can I hate saying this, but he's like, what can I give you? What do you want? Do you want an epidural? They're going to be small. It's not going to be painful. But what do you want? I just said, I just don't want to feel my heart. I said,
oh my God, stop.
That's literally what I said to him. I was like, well, give me something where I just don't feel my heart, because I just can't. And so I think he gave me Valium or this kind of, he gave me Valium and everything. And I held them for like 4 hours, I think, just laid them on me, and like Phil did, and my brothers and my cousins, and it was just really hard.
Yeah. Oh my.
Sorry, guys.
No, don't be sorry. This is why we have this pod. It's uncomfortable. These are uncomfortable conversations. And
it almost feels surreal. Like sometimes you, and I'm sure you can honestly feel like you're talking about someone else and you're like, wow, did I actually go through that? Like it's just wild.
Like an out-of-body experience, that this was actually, you're speaking about your own experiences, but it's exactly why I think it's so important to talk about, because this is not taboo. This is life, and not for a lot of people. So I'm so proud of you, and to have you on speaking about something so raw, but in the fact that it can help so many other people feel seen and heard. Unfortunately, other people go through these things the same, and you are letting them know that they're not alone. And
thank you.
Your resilience is incredible.
Thank you.
So when did you actually process, like you were in the hospital, you got to hold them for 4 hours. How did it go after that? Like where was your mind at? What happened going home?
Well, they don't leave you in very long. I was out the next morning.
Oh my god.
See, that's
that's where don't they think then about like
mental health?
Yeah, mental health. Like you've just lost 2 babies, not just one. You've lost 2 babies.
Oh, and I remember walking out. And it's awful, like probably don't even know what I should say, but I remember walking out, those 2 heavily pregnant women at the front of the hospital drinking alcohol. And it just killed me. I was just like, I did everything right. I didn't eat raw eggs. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I was like, why? And after everything I had been through in my life, I just felt like, why? Like, why? And then some of that childhood processing came in where I was like, did I jinx myself? You know how they like, did someone give me the evil eye because I was sharing too much online? Like, and it's one of the things my mum said to me. Yeah, mum's like, why did you put everything online? Why I told you to be more private, this and that. And now I realise it was none of that. It really was none of that. We got in the car, and as soon as we turn on the car, which has become our twin song, and so many people message me every time they hear it on the radio because they're like, every time I hear this song, it reminds me of your twins. Phil and I got in the car and we were broken. We were obviously so broken, and literally turned on the car and the first song on the radio was Vance Joy's We're Going Home.
Oh.
And just the words, and we just looked at each other and we just burst out crying, and we just held hands and we drove home, and Phil just like turned the music up, and ever since then that's kind of become their anthem, and every time we hear it now we feel a little bit more peace, but it took a long time. So afterwards I started writing. Writing was my therapy. It was really cathartic for me, but I started writing about it on Insta. I had articles published on Mamma Mia and all that kind of thing. But what I did was throw myself into listening to other people's stories. So my DMs blew up. Like obviously from the article, a lot of articles went viral. I did the run for a reason. We raised $15,000 for the Women and Infants Research Foundation. But what I was doing was I was counselling all these other women in my DMs through their pain. And it wasn't until I saw a spiritual healer, and she held my hand and she said, you do realise you're just bypassing dealing with your own trauma.
Yes.
Yeah.
She said, I know it is good, what you're doing a good thing, but all you're doing is prolonging your own healing, because your help, again, you've fallen into that pattern of helping everybody else, but you actually haven't processed what's happening.
Yourself.
So in 2019, so a year after, I took a full break from social media for, I think it was like nearly 2 years.
I think I died. I was like stalking your account and there was nothing coming up, and I was just like, where has she gone?
Yeah, I just disappeared. I just like cutthroat. I just had to disappear.
It's healthy.
It was
for you.
It was healthy. And it was also really difficult. Like I think a lot, and I'm sure you can like agree, or I think a lot with grief as well is not only does it changes you, but it changes your friendships. It changes your purpose. It changes so much in your life. I suddenly, would sit in conversations and I was like, I don't want to talk about this. Like this doesn't interest me. Like surface level just doesn't cut it anymore. You're just like, oh, like it's just, there's so much more. So in some ways, as much as it's the hardest thing in your life, you find such a deepness to yourself. But it was hard as well, because then I was grieving friendships that I'd had for 20 years, and I knew that I'd outgrown these friendships, but I'd hung on to them again, like just a pattern. So there was a lot of that. So a lot of change and a lot of growth. What I did, going back to your original question, was obviously they refer you to a psychologist. So I saw a psychologist through King Edward referred me to a psychologist, and I did that for a while. And honestly, I had about 3 sessions. She was like, you're totally fine.
What?
And I was like, she's like,
Love that.
And so then I remember a friend who's now one of my best friends, Steph DeVideo, if you're listening, and Steph invited me to do her meditation course. And that was sort of the start of my spiritual journey. And it was a 6-week course, and I started that, and then I did some one-on-one stuff with Steph. And that's kind of really where I felt like I started to heal, and I started to let go of the anger and the bitterness and the why me and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is. And that's where I think as well, it's like you leave the hospital, no longer our problem almost.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
So it is like, it's very insightful to hear.
Because also postnatal depression comes after the loss of babies.
100%.
Yeah.
And because no one talks about that, your milk still comes in.
That's right.
You're still feeling like you're pregnant.
So my milk came in. I had to deal with that. I had to go to the doctor and get the tablet to stop my milk. It was, and also like I had to deal with a lot of guilt of having a 2-year-old, and some days I would just want to lay on the couch and cry. And I've done so much work to make up for that time with Alea. And this is another, like it was just like everything kept coming. I remember them giving us a pamphlet after we lost the twins, and it said 65% or something ridiculous, don't quote me, but it was like 65% or something marriages end in divorce after stillborns.
Oh, thanks for that. That's just another
Why
thing.
would they hand that to you?
And I was just
It's like here, by the way, you might get a divorce.
I was just like, yeah, it was just like the information was just, and so there was that too, because my husband threw himself into work. Like for any mums that have been through it, like I see you, I feel like I was very much alone, like as in my husband threw himself into work, and of course he was dealing with his trauma in the way that he felt best. But you do get disconnected. So we've done a lot of work as a couple to keep that connection.
Yeah.
Because for me, I was trying to be mum at home and I was so lost. Like I felt like no one understood me. I felt like, and because as well, which both of you would understand, I would go to the shops and it felt like, honestly, it felt like I had a dick drawn on my head because everyone was like, come up to me, oh my God, you're the girl that lost the twins. Oh my God, oh my God, Inaloo, Karen up, everywhere. I used to wear big glasses, not like I'm I cannot imagine how like top celebrities do it. They would just come up to me and it was just like reinforcing the pain.
But it's also insensitive. Like they could just come up and be like, you know, just don't even need to say anything and just touch you and be like, I'm here if you need.
Honestly,
to say those things is like.
I got so many messages about, do you maybe think it's because you got the flu shot?
Oh my God.
It was like the stuff that people deal with, like you just don't even, like it's.
Why would you even say that to someone?
But that's the thing. I feel like so many people don't know. You do not need to say, you know, all you need to say is, I'm so sorry for your loss. You can just be there. You do not need to, it happens for a reason. I want to punch. When I hear it happens for a reason, I'm like, what reason is that, mate? Like, like it's wild that some of the comments that you must have received and had to
deal with while you're dealing with the loss.
I got like a lot of, at least they weren't full term.
What?
That broke me a lot because
they were babies.
I birthed them and they were fully
They were
formed.
babies.
They were
yeah.
babies.
They were beautiful.
And they were much bigger than the nurses expected that came out. So I've got a friend who messaged me and was going through a similar situation. She was pregnant with twins and unfortunately lost one of her twins. And her son is now a little fighter. He's born. He's 1. He's beautiful. But at the time, like, you know, when I saw the weight of her babies and my boys were bigger, like they were big boys. They were really, and I'd see that in Jules, like my son now, he's like a big boy. So they were, so many insensitive comments that you had to deal with as well. That people just don't even realise. There was just so much to unpack.
It's the unfiltered world though. Like to be honest, even with Dad's death, people would say things and I'd be like, mate, you don't say that.
Yeah.
It's also because it's not talked about. They get awkward and they just want to make themselves feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Something that makes them feel comfortable in putting a reason behind something.
Yeah.
And I think, that's why these conversations are important because it's education too.
Yeah.
I'm very interested because I know for myself when I went through grief, did you then head to the food again after the boys?
No.
Okay.
I think that was the second pivotal moment for me. After the boys, I actually didn't eat for a long time. So I lost a bit, and then maybe I did a little bit, but not to the extent that I did before.
Yeah.
So I think like my brother and finding out he's using was like the first pivotal point in my life where I was like, I need to start honouring myself. And I think I never mentioned that after I sold my brother's house, I actually went back to uni and I got a degree.
Wow.
I got a double degree. So this was a second pivotal point for me, and it was like I knew that I had a lot of toxic people in my life, and losing the twins just made me realise like I just want to be around people that make me happy, that feeling that I can just be myself. And like you said, I don't think I was ever fake, but maybe I buried a lot of what happened to me out of shame. And so I wanted to be around people that just loved all of that loved all my story and didn't think, oh, do you really want to share that? Like, do you really want to, why do you want to? I remember when I started sharing online about the twins and people were like, do you really want to share? I remember being judged for sharing their photo. Some people that I knew were like, oh, how could you put their photo up there? Like, that's really confronting. I said, I think that's the my son.
I remember seeing that photo and just bawling. Like, I think for me, I looked at the photo and obviously I was in pain. I was in pain for you when I looked at the photo because I just kept thinking, how are you feeling? Because that's.
I actually think the photo is one of the most beautiful things.
I think because it's not shared that often. It was real. It was raw. Like
it is, and so many women like suffer in silence. And I think, and for me, I thought, do you know what killed me as well? Again, me thinking about everyone else. But at the time, I thought they were my second and third babies, right? But what about women that lose for their first baby? They don't get Mother's Day.
No.
They don't get any of that recognition of being a mother, even though they've birthed children, right? So I actually connected like with people from the East Coast, and I've got close friends that at the time lost as well, and we still speak. We speak on the phone, we voice message, etc. So it's just connected me with so many people, and also just more my soul sisters, like people that have we all have baggage, but I think some people are just better at hiding it, right?
That's exactly right.
But it is definitely funny. I found this too, that after you've suffered some kind of trauma or some kind of grief, the people that you thought would have been there for you actually sometimes are not.
100%.
I lost friends after Dad's death, and like obviously you did the same with the boys. Like, isn't it? It's shocking. Like, what the hell?
It's really shocking. Like the comment that I told you about, them not being full term was like one of my closest friends.
Aren't you glad they weren't full term? Was from one of your friends?
Yeah,
one of your closest friends.
Yeah, and it just broke me, and I was just like,
how can you say that?
I remember it was someone else we know had lost a child, and I remember her calling me, and she was like so devastated for them, so devastated, and she was really, really harping on, and obviously I was shattered.
Is this
after my twins? And
she was devastated for them, but she didn't act like that for you.
She was devastated for me, but I remember her going on and on and on about this, and Phil and I remember opening my Instagram, and it was the first post I saw that these people we know had lost someone. And Phil and I were driving to Lancelin, I will never forget, and we both bawled our eyes out because when you know that pain, you don't wish it for anybody else, like nobody. And I remember that conversation with my friend, and I was like, oh, you do realise I've been through the same thing? She goes, yeah, but yours weren't full term. And I was just
I am gobsmacked.
Yeah, I am a bit.
I think too, I'm proud of you that you've disconnected from that person, because you don't need people like that in your life. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because that's just one comment. I'm sure she's made many other comments to you that maybe you haven't realised.
Yeah. I think I had like people, you just outgrow people, right? Like I'm not bitter towards anyone. I think everyone in your life is there for a season, for a reason.
Yeah.
And I do think like in some ways she helped me play it safe all the time, maybe play it a little bit small. I used to dull myself down a little bit and so I think you change and you grow like I still have love for everyone that was in my life. And I think the biggest lesson, I guess, in thinking like it's just come up for me and reflecting on all these people is we need to look at everyone in our life as mirrors. And even my brother, my mum and everything, at some point in my life I used to resent them and be like, why didn't I get a better this? Why didn't I get a better that? But without them, I wouldn't be who I am today, and also know like maybe I would have ended up on a path of addiction or destruction or misery, like depression, if I didn't have those mirrors there mirroring back how different people deal with pain.
Yeah.
So for me, I look at mum and I'm like, I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to, I don't want to. I'm 38 this year. And she would still talk about the divorce with my dad 38 years ago.
She's still dealing with her traumas.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't want to be, and that was a big thing at Tony Robbins, like he did some NLP work, and when I imagine, he's like, imagine if your life didn't change at all, what would it be like? So I'm actually really grateful for the people that I've had in my life, because there are mirrors of what I could be if I stay the same and I don't change and I don't evolve and continue to grow.
I just learned a lesson.
Yeah. I know. It's evolution, and it's also really important to learn from others' mistakes.
Yeah.
I'm just quoted my dad.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Dad.
Yeah.
But it is true. Like what you're saying is like I think me and Crystal were just looking at each other just then and going, yeah.
We've got those people that we resent
Yeah.
When in actual fact, maybe we should be saying, okay.
Thank you, because I don't want to be like you.
Yeah.
You know what? It's such a powerful shift when you can shift to resenting or hating them or being angry at them, because you know who carries the weight of that, right? It's you.
It is.
It's us that carries the weight. And so for so long I felt heavy, like I'm carrying all this, I'm carrying. And like now I just appreciate the lessons that they gave me, and I look at it and I'm like, wow, you've taught me that if I don't process my pain, it's going to show up in another way.
Yeah. I'm just going to process it, and if I don't process it, it's going to end up with my kids are going to be the next in line. So that breaking generational trauma, basically.
Yeah.
I bloody don't want to do that to my kids. And that's
100%.
exactly why I'm doing the work, because the ones before me, bless their cotton socks, but they haven't done it.
Yeah,
And
100%.
so moving on from that, you have come you've come like 360.
Oh, thank you.
Like, it's a beautiful thing to have witnessed and to hear your story. So you've done the work.
Yeah.
Where are you now? Like, tell us.
I think we always continue to do the work. Like, we do the work, and when we say we do the work, it's just about facing ourselves, right?
Yeah.
It's just about sitting with ourselves. And I think for so long after losing the twins, I really filled every day with stuff. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And I think I'm in a place now where I'm stripping it right back.
Yep.
And I'm just trying to be really present with myself and my kids. And like, I want to give back. I think for me, for all of this to have happened in my life, I used to see it as such a bad thing. And now I see it as, maybe this is my gift. Maybe this is my gift to give back to people, that they can get through whatever it is they are overcoming. Any adversity that they're facing, they can get through it. I think you need to feel in order to heal, and that's a big part, and not distract.
That.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That was me this morning. I was like, I'm just going to feel it.
Yes.
You have to, right?
I'm going to listen to that after, because she won't let me listen to it now. But feel in order to heal.
Yeah.
I just wanted to repeat that.
That
for
needs
everyone.
to be a bumper sticker.
Does
I know.
right?
But God damn it, I know what it's like to sit in uncomfortable. It feels like shit, and that's why I like to be busy. That's why you like to be busy.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, let's repeat that, guys. Feel in order to heal.
100%.
This is one of her little bombs here that she's giving. I just love it so much. That's why I was like, had to cut you off there.
Oh, honestly, because I think it's like, in this society, it's so easy to be busy, right? It's about the hustle culture. It's about what we need to do, what we
Distracting ourselves.
But when we do that, we move even further away from who we really are.
Yeah.
So I always just come back to my heart, what feels right, what feels aligned, and go with that. And like I said, people in your life, you need to look at them as your trick. Is another one for you. Your trigger is your treasure. You can thank Charlotte Beswick for that one.
Oh, love her. Love her.
Your trigger is your treasure. Like, people that trigger me now, I'm like, I have more love and empathy, and I look at them and I'm like, what's going on for you? Like, what? I become curious about. Do you get me? Well, Crystal, what's her face?
Crystal's going mind blown, guys. I think sometimes we forget this is like
Your trigger is your treasure.
Yes.
I will try to embrace that, but right now I'm thinking, how?
I'll give you a really simple example, right?
Please.
So some people, like, someone shows up on stories and they're talking, they're like, oh, who does she think she is, right?
Yeah.
I've heard, like, people around, like, you see them judging. And it's because maybe in them they don't have the courage to do that. Like, so your trigger is always reflecting back something at you. So maybe, I know I struggled with sometimes, a big one for me, right? I'll be honest here. I struggled sometimes with people coming across like they were selfish, right?
Okay.
Because I always put people before me.
Yeah.
But now I realize that trigger was there to show me that I needed to be more selfish, right?
Yes.
So I had a lot of people in my life that were quite selfish. Like, when I would do stuff for them, but when it came to reciprocating, I never received like anything. And I didn't expect, don't get me wrong, I never expected, but it just became recurring to me. And then when I identified, I was like, maybe it's a lesson for me that I need to look after myself first.
And maybe you want that for yourself, and that's why it was triggering you.
Yeah.
Actually, that is something that I have done a lot. So whenever I'm triggered by someone, instead of getting upset about, like, if I'm jealous of something, I'm like, why am I jealous of that?
Yeah, where's it
coming from? And then it's like, is it because you want that? And a lot of the time it's because we do want something. Like we might see someone that's uber confident or whatever in themselves in their everyday life, and someone else gets jealous and who do you think you are, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's more so because I wish I could have a bit of that. I wish I could be a little bit more confident. So it's about, also mirroring your triggers.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not like directly, like, so sometimes people look at someone's life and they're like, oh, I wish I had that car.
Yeah.
Maybe they have blockages in terms of finances. They don't think they're worthy enough to earn better money.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? So it could be.
I think my triggers are different.
Go on, what's one?
No, I just get, I can't
Like,
even, I'm
yes,
not
you
allowed to. They're deep.
I'm going to dig it out.
You will, don't worry.
Yeah.
My triggers are.
It takes time though, right? It took me
I do have a little bit of those, like I would call those like superficial triggers. Like I'll look at somebody and be like, oh yeah, I like that, or I want that, or.
Or they were just examples. I
Yeah.
don't have those triggers.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying like, yeah, of course I have those kind of triggers. But sometimes I get triggered by something and I want to throw up. I don't want to look at that person. I want to hide. Like
Yeah.
they don't make me feel like it's not like I want that. It's I don't want that. Or
But maybe
I don't know what it
maybe
is.
Maybe that's a lesson in better boundaries.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't have any boundaries.
Yeah. Because honestly, like that's one thing that I learned. Like I was getting anxious around certain people, like almost panic attacky, and I was like, I don't need this around me. Like we have a choice, and it's really hard. I know it's easy. Like we say we have a choice, but we do have a choice. We get one life, and we're the writer of it. We get to choose who are the main characters in that story, right?
That's true.
Absolutely.
And it's not that you need to, like, as I said, even with that friend, like when I see that friend, I give her a hug, say, how's the family, la, la, la. Not just one friend, like a few that are no longer in my sort of inner circle.
Yep.
But you just have to know who you want at the table. It doesn't mean just because you don't want them at the table, it doesn't mean you don't want to see them eat and thrive and whatever. It's just, you know who your people are.
Yeah. I'm still learning.
Yeah. I think we all are.
We all are. It's every day.
So let's talk about what you want to do with your future now, because I find this so exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited. Come on. Spill the tea, girl.
So this has been a massive one for me, trying to let go, because one of my biggest patterns is hanging on. I've always had to survive, as you've heard from my whole story. So I've been really financially independent since I was very young, like 15. So I am in a corporate role, which obviously I earn very good money in, but my passion has just not been there for a long time. And I've had to try and break that pattern of just hanging on to something. But yeah, my next steps are to get into the speaking and coaching space and mentoring. So I'm looking at doing a coaching course and starting a women's sort of community and workshops and one-on-ones, and just giving back all the lessons that I've learned and helping people overcome adversity and find
And
their
do you know what I love? The fact that you're going into this and you've actually experienced things that are very mind-blowing trauma, because not saying that a lot of these coaches don't know what they're doing, but sometimes they're coaching on something they've never even gone through themselves.
Yeah.
But also, we were talking about it before, they haven't done the work.
Yeah.
Like you have put in a lot of work, and like you're saying, and you still will and will continue to do so. So I think it's really refreshing as well.
Thank you. Yeah, I've done Western medicine. I've done, the spiritual side. I think I've done like a whole collective to try and understand. It's probably a good and a bad thing, but I'm someone that will over-research something just so I, can have a full body. But I think, a lot of the life experience and the varying life experience, I guess, I have a real ability to connect with people on really different walks of life, because there's so much there that I've unpacked.
Look, I have to say, you are powerful. It's not just your story. I was actually going to come in and say your story is so powerful, but it's not the story. It is you who are powerful.
Thank you.
You have been more than brave.
Thank you.
So it has just actually been such a pleasure to have you on and to chat with you today. I would love for you to share where we can find you now, what links we can put in for you. And I know that you are also doing the HBF Run for a Reason to honour your boys and to support charity. Yeah. So please fill us in on all of that.
Oh, so you can find me on Instagram at Simply Solonge. And my website will be coming soon. It's a work in progress. So it's all the little things tickling on behind the scenes. And I'll also share on my Instagram the HBF Run for a Reason link if you would like to donate.
That would be great.
That is amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, we are so grateful to have you on.
Thank you.
I know for myself, I've literally known you for years and years, and I've seen you go through the waves. And there's been moments where you did disappear, and I'm so happy now that this little butterfly is blossoming and you're coming out of your cocoon. And we're going to watch you fly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I love that you've supported me for so long. I appreciate it.
No worries.
I know. I think we've got to give you the backstory of the cocoon.
The cocoon.
The cocoon. We always feel like at some stages of our lives, we're either the caterpillar, you're in the cocoon going through the metamorphosis. You're either drying your wings or you are blossoming and flying away. So
that's new tattoo ideas for her.
Oh,
yeah,
I love it.
So that's where, and my
it's funny
little
you shared that because our spirit animal as a family, we always see blue butterflies, and it shows up as my twins. So
I love that. Yes, and the butterfly for me is always something that I feel like is life.
Transformation.
It's transformation and evolution, and we always refer to it as the cocoon.
The cocoon.
That's how Rose's daughter says it. Cocoon.
She calls it in the cocoon. And I think we can all put ourselves into that space of life.
Yeah.
And so when she said you were blossoming, and I think you are, your wings are dry and you're ready to fly.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited.
No worries at all.
All of her details we will pop in the show notes, and when her website is all ready and up and running, we will definitely share it with you on our Instagram and socials. So thank you so much, Solonge. Remember, guys, to always take care of yourself
And take care of each other.
Thank you. Bye.